It's a magical, mystical time. It's anecdotal adventures.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Anecdotal Adventures Reads Worm. I'm your host, Cassidy, and this is my co-host.
I think you said that wrong.
Probably.
That's Ashley. I'm Cassidy.
I'm tired. And we haven't recorded in literal months. So if you forget how to do things, that's why. This is going to be an episode, a ride. For one, we've already recorded this episode.
Yeah, it was just...
Arc 11.
Yeah.
I'm dying one second. And the audio was kind of bad.
Oh, it was really bad.
You couldn't hear.
We've posted episodes with kind of bad audio. It was
you couldn't hear
really
Cassidy
bad.
at all. I think this was the first episode that you had your new mic. So
yeah, so we're figuring out those audio settings, which is gonna be fun if we reach that point in the other series to see if like.
Don't worry, it's not that bad, and even if it is, you can't re-record that, so it gets posted anyway. You just have to suffer. Anyway, this is going to be an episode, I can already tell. For no, Arc 11's really long. We're not splitting it into two parts. This episode is longer than normal. Congratulations, you got a longer than normal episode.
Is it longer than normal, Arc 11?
Yeah, because it has like 12 interludes, I guess.
Well, it didn't feel that long while I was reading it. So
it's way longer than a normal chapter, like a normal arc. But it goes by really quickly. So that's fair.
Damn.
Anyway.
Next week, I'm not going to get to read as much.
Relax. These chapters have a lot in them. Anyway, Arc 11 starts off, I suppose, starting with the recap from... I'm all out of sorts. We need to start with the recap for Arc 10. Do you remember what happened in Arc 10, Cassidy?
I have no idea.
You tell it's been months. Don't worry, I also have my
Taylor
notes
ran away.
For Arc 10. The full extent of Alex's powers were revealed.
Yeah.
It was Alex interlude, so that the Sophia's horrible, no good, very bad day happened.
The whole Shadow Stalker thing.
Yeah.
Fuck her. I don't care anyways. I do care a little bit. It's morally questionable, but still, fuck her.
This whole book is morally questionable, and we're here for it.
Yeah, but I love Taylor, but she's so morally questionable.
Yeah.
Her shit got revealed to the rest of the group, right?
That was Arc 8.
That was a long time ago.
That was after the Leviathan attack.
Never mind me.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
They fought Dragon. Rachel tried to kill Taylor.
Yep.
That happened. Okay, refreshing your memory.
Taylor made her.
If you want to hear us actually talk about Arc 10, go watch our last episode because this is.
It's just been a while. Oh,
It has been a hot minute. So, Arc 11 starts with Taylor having a nightmare about Coyle being her father. And I remember Cassidy texting me about this all these months ago, being like, Coyle's her father? Oh, God! Oh, wait, never mind, it's a dream. 10 minutes later.
In class reading that, and I gasped out loud, and my friend's teacher was like, what? And I was like, I wasn't supposed to be reading it in class, but I was. And I was like, and then read the next paragraph. I was like, oh, it's really fine.
And it's this kind of horrible dream sequence about Taylor failing to save Dinah Dinah dying, and then her slowly taking on Dinah's role as like Coyle's pet. It's really rough.
I'm just saying, I'm super impressed that in that dream, she was able to be like, oh, he blew this very specific thing in my face. I'm like, damn, girl, where did you get that from in your subconscious?
She probably found that while she was looking up crazy poisonous bugs to use.
She just whipped that out of there when she was sleeping. I was like, okay, I can't even come up with names in my dreams.
Yeah, and then she wakes up and she's really thinking about this nightmare that she had and how fairly traumatized she is by this whole ordeal she's gone at this point. It is really this entire entire section that is a lead-in to just, you know, reestablish what Taylor's goals are and why she is being a supervillain. Mm-hmm. It is for Dinah. That's it.
That is it.
Because, like, Dinah is the one single thread she is holding on to sanity by. Which is terrifying to think about. So,
I mean, at least we can be confident that she won't die yet. Yeah. Coyle won't kill Dinah. Yeah. Currently.
But that is a perfect lead-in to Taylor's thought process on the whole thing, which I'm going to read aloud. How long could Dinah be expected to hold on? I doubted Coyle was taking bad care of her, so she wouldn't die of malnutrition or overdose on whatever drugs Coyle was giving her. Still, there was a limit to what the human mind could handle. How long until Coyle pushed her abilities too far? If she was getting headaches from the use of her power, there was a chance she could suffer more severe issues if pushed to use it more often. Pain generally signified something was wrong. What worried me more than anything was the idea that I might save Dinah, only to find that Coyle had broken her spirit or her will to the point that she couldn't go back to her old life. I worried that, like in my nightmares, I would be too late. So, Dinah dying is really the least of Taylor's worries at this point.
Yeah, she's like, she will die, but you're gonna break that child.
Fate's worse than death.
Yeah.
So she gets up, she puts contacts on instead of her glasses, which, this was since we had to read through this again. Cassidy noticed something.
Yeah, that was a very conscious choice. She was like, oh, ha, 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 no, Slaughterhouse 9. I was like, I see you.
Yeah, I have in my notes from like 7 months ago, prep for Shatterbird.
Yeah. Terrifying, but smart. Big brain.
Yeah, and so Taylor has this whole scene of her getting ready in the morning, and she looks at the mirror. And I also want to read this whole paragraph out loud because there's some stuff in here. Some good stuff in here.
I love this paragraph. Love it.
It's a fantastic paragraph. To say I recognize myself, what I barely recognized myself was, how could I put it? It was true, but I could also remember myself months ago when I looked at my reflection and I would be so focused on the flaws and the things I didn't like about myself that I never felt familiar with the person I was seeing in the mirror. It was as though it was always a stranger I was looking at, and I would be left vaguely surprised at the combination of features across from me. This was not recognizing myself in a different way. There were still things I didn't like: my wide mouth, my small chest, the lack of curves or any real femininity. My scars stood out with my slight tan, a teardrop-shaped mark on my forearm where a bitch's dog had bitten me, a wavy bark on my cheek where Sophia had dug her fingernails in, and a line on my earlobe where she tried to tear my ear off. But my physical flaws no longer consumed my attention when I looked at myself. I felt comfortable with my body, like I'd somehow earned it. The way it was mine now. I wasn't sure if that made any sense, even to myself.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's a real good paragraph. I'm sure a lot of people have had those days where, like, you look at yourself in the mirror and you only see the things you hate about yourself. But then you have a really good week, you work really hard, and you look at yourself in your mirror and you're like, I feel great.
Like,
But at the same
I
time, like,
yeah, I went through this whole like middle school fucking sucks for everyone. I get that. Early high school sucks for everyone. I get that. And then okay, so when I hit high school, I got hit with the gender dysphoria thing as well. And there is something to be said about instead of just learning to like your body, the whole owning your body. It like it becomes about what you can do instead of what it looks like, and it's a whole different feeling of confidence.
yeah, and Taylor, it has definitely stemmed from the fact that she now has like way bigger problems. That like all her little worries seem little now.
Her insecurity is no longer the biggest thing in her life.
Yeah, now it seems like a very small problem in comparison to like the supervillainy she's doing on a daily basis. Supervillainy, good for your self-confidence.
I mean, if you're as dramatic as her, how can you not be confident?
She's so dramatic. I believe this is she gets up and she goes on her jog again. And on it, she sees her dad. The face you're making needs to be translated, yeah.
It's a very awkward interaction.
Yeah, because like she wasn't prepped to talk to her dad. It was sort of a spur moment thing. So, and everything that Taylor hasn't prepped for, she's super kind of awkward about. And so she has this conversation with her dad where her dad's like, you should come over sometime. And it's this very awkward thing of a parent who hasn't seen their child in a long time, but the child is still young enough to like have lived in their home. And it's this very strange interaction where you can tell both are
coffee.
Yeah, both people are really on their back foot about each other, which is kind of sad because they both love each other and care for each other, but the situation that Taylor has found herself in has made them grow apart quite a bit. And it's another metaphor for trauma, because trauma makes you grow apart from the people you love and isolate yourself from them. And once again, back to the worm is just a metaphor for trauma train. So as
Can I have one more thing about this scene, this specific scene?
Yes.
She paused and was like, specifically she said, I heard the Slaughterhouse 9 were around. Be careful, warn others. I pointed at my face. His eyes widened. I could see the thought process, the realization. He took his glasses off and hung them from his shirt's pocket. I wasn't positive that was much better. Literally, Dad did it too. Was like, oh crap, okay, no more glasses for me. This arc put him right over his heart.
This arc is the setup for the interludes at the end of the arc where we see the Slaughterhouse 9 come to town.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really feel that because arc 1, like the chapter 1s of the arcs usually set up all the payoffs that are going to be happening later in the arc. This sets up Taylor like consciously thinking about her past but feeling more confident about it than she was. It sets up the Slaughterhouse 9. It reestablishes Dinah and what she's being a villain for. It's a really good first chapter to an arc. It does a lot. But she goes back to her lair, and I love that she has a lair. It's just, she has a supervillain lair now.
It's a lair.
And she calls it a lair, okay? It is her lair. And it's time to claim her territory. Dun, dun,
just,
dun.
Yeah.
Hear the music behind that. So at 11.2, so Taylor begins to lay her claim to her territory, and the first thing it starts with is her interacting with Coil's men and herself and being like, how should I talk to them versus how I talk to everyone else versus like how I talk to my teammates, how I talk to the public. It's really interesting to watch her like logic out whether or not she has to be kind of rude to gain the respect.
Yeah, or amiable. And it's really funny. She's like, no, I gotta be powerful and confident so I don't speak with them. Which I see the logic, but also disagree.
Yeah, and then she starts speaking to the crowd that she has gathered around her. And just noting that Battery is in the background, crossed arms, watching all this go down. Doesn't step in. Just raises an eyebrow and watches it all. And she has this big speech, which I'm just going to read some parts of to everyone. I demand no money from you. I do not intend to interfere in your lives unless you interfere in mine. I do not want to take or destroy what you have. She starts handing out supplies. These supplies, a gift from me to you. There will be more, delivered regularly for as long as I am here. My abilities will mean there will be no buzzing or biting flies harassing you, no cockroaches crawling over you as you sleep. I am offering my protection, security, and reprieve for as long as you are my subjects. All I require is that you obey me and my rules, so hear me. No gangs will operate here. Merchants, chosen, I know some of you are in this crowd. Consider this my declaration of war. I will not permit you to sell drugs, to hurt my people, or steal from them, or to seek shelter in my territory. My buzz can devour a cow to the bone in 1.5 minutes. I had no idea if that was true, but it sounded good. I have a million eyes watching you. Go elsewhere. To everyone else, if you assist any of these groups, give them food, shelter, or business, if you sell drugs, steal, or prey on the people in this area, you lose my goodwill. You will receive no more supplies, and you will earn my attention, with eyes on you for every waking hour. That's strike one. If I catch you doing it again, I treat you as one of the enemies. And there is more. Just gotta flip to the next page of my notes, because she has a lot to say. Each box contains enough basic food rations for 4 people. They also have first aid supplies and water filters. These supplies will keep you going until we can start fixing things and make more basic conveniences available. If you want more, work for me. This does not have to be criminal, for I need people to pass on messages, to act as spokespersons for these neighborhoods, and to clean up or rebuild. For anyone who does assist me, them and their families will have access to some of those foods you miss, to showers and electricity and generous payment. You and your loved ones will be dry, clean, and you will have fresh clothes. And the speech ends, and there's like an awkward silence as everyone's like, do we take stuff? And then slowly people step forward, and then a girl steps forward, and she goes, my kid brother, he needs help. My parents are sick, they're in the hospital, and I can't tell them because I told them I'd take care of him. And I asked the cops, but they're so busy, there's no way they can help. I was going to ask that hero, Battery, but then she disappeared so fast because Battery had left after the speech. She was like, oh, okay, it's fine. I'm gone. The merchants took him, my kid brother. I want you to get him back, please. And that's the setup for the next couple arcs. But winding back a little bit, there's a guy from the merchants that tries to come and like...
This is number 1 on the list I have made of Taylor's most metal moments. It's actually number 2.
She
Taylor's most metal moments in this arc.
She deals with this guy very quickly, and if Battery hadn't stepped in, she was really considering just straight up stabbing this guy.
She said in the hand, so...
Like, Taylor, stabbing a guy in the hand is not the worst thing you've done. Do you remember, Long? That was your first night out. That wasn't on purpose, mind you. But...
yeah. But this made it onto my list of Taylor's most metal moments. Is because she looked at this guy and was like, stab me. do it. You won't. And he didn't at first. And then she kept pushing. And when he did, she just braced herself, set her feet, and took the knife over and over again and watched him realize he didn't scratch her. Chef's kiss. Like, yes.
Metal moments could
reading
also
that
be,
gave me adrenaline.
It could also be labeled as Taylor becoming Brocklands Bay most dangerous supervillain.
He's like, oh, we can't stab her. Cool. Awesome.
It's any wonder I just have to remember every time the wards fight the Undersiders all the time. Just have to remember that these are the people they're facing. Once again, feel so bad for Clock Blocker Part 3.
I love Clock Blocker.
That's the end of Chapter 2, and we move on to 11.3, where, Taylor's sitting in her lair, sipping some tea. The merchants respond to her bid for control. So great.
This was #1 most metal moment.
Fantastic. I remember reading this chapter for the first time years ago at this point, and stopping to cackle madly at 1 a.m. Because I was so amused by the image of Taylor, who had been rejecting being a supervillain for so long, completely 100% meld into the life perfectly. The only thing she's missing is a cat to stroke while she sips the tea.
She's got the bugs.
Yeah.
She doesn't need the cat. She's got the bugs.
She just needs a really big furry spider.
Yes.
Sit in her lap.
Absolutely.
Complete the image. She's thinking about her territory and how she's taking control of it and how she's going to have underlings and structure things. And then she also is thinking about how her thinking has become a bit like Bakuda's, which is, quote, disquieting. Yeah, Taylor, just a little bit.
At least she's still keeping herself accountable a little bit and being like, oh, I heard that come out of the bomber's mouth one time. So
maybe, but she doesn't stop thinking like that. She has that thought and then puts it in her box and puts the box away.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm thinking like Bakuda, but it's fine because I'm helping people. I say, as I am torching someone with thousands of bugs, like a little lynch mob.
I want art of that.
It's fine.
So she meets with Sierra, who is the girl who asked her for help earlier, and explains that her brother was kidnapped after an attack on the place they were seeking shelter at. And some graphic description of what the merchants did to some of the people during that attack ensue.
I just want to say, Wildbow, why did you give Ashley this much inspiration?
For reference point, we play a game we record. It's on this channel. Go check it out. Called City of Mist Kingmakers, and just recently, it's not probably up yet. This is probably coming out before the episode we're on, that. Which I refuse to say aloud because it gives me deep shame to tell people how far away, far ahead we are. But I had recently used some liberal inspiration from a chapter from Wildbow Body, taking a piece from Wildbow and Body Horror to expose my players to in that game. I have been
nauseous.
I have been ordered to never do that again. Which is fine. I got my one.
More than one person. It's not just me.
I got my one shotgun moment from the campaign. I got it in. So Sierra's explaining to Taylor what's happening, and Taylor's trying to still be in the Skitter persona, but like humanize herself to Sierra, so Sierra stops acting so cautiously, and it doesn't work at all. So like, here's the quote. It's fine, I'm not offended. I am a villain, but I'm also a person under this mask. Someone who prefers tea to coffee, someone who enjoys reading, who, I floundered, likes sweet and savory foods, but dislikes anything spicy or sour. Point being, I'm someone who wants to make sure you get taken care of, especially if you're among the people I'm protecting in this territory, I'm claiming. Go, find a bed. She floundered at finding any other hobbies outside of herself besides reading and supervillainy. So
And when's the last time she's read?
Besides research for supervillainy? Must be a while. And even before she really became a supervillain, how much did she read that was outside of Cape stuff?
Exactly.
Like
this is her life. Not to mention, she was also explaining earlier in this arc, when she was explaining her lair, her section of the lair, like Taylor's part of it, bare bones.
Yeah, and then like
Peter's part of it
is like elaborate, is fantastic. But Taylor's just like, Taylor gets a broom closet in the corner. It's just a bed and like a desk.
Just get in the corner. We don't need you and your stupid emotions. We're doing something.
Yeah, that is kind of
We're
Taylor in a
justifying
nutshell.
it by saying we're saving a child.
Taylor's lair is a like physical representation of her compartmentalization. It's like, there's the Taylor space, here's the Skinner space, here's the places I go to interact with other people space. Which is quite interesting. So Sierra comes to live with her, and Taylor contacts Lisa and gets a report about how the other Undersiders are doing with their territory. She's much farther along.
They're in the research phase.
Yeah, she's territory now. They're still like, we live here, but we've not like done anything yet. Because like her power is perfect for this. It is information gathering, it can be offensive, it is really an all-around thing. Brian's doesn't really have a thing he can use for offensive. He doesn't have a thing he can use for information gathering. Lisa doesn't really have anything she can use to go on the offensive without like having a set of minions. So like,
Taylor's like, okay, done and done.
Taylor's built for this with her power set, but also built for this mentally. Like, she did it. She barely like, on the outside, she probably hardly even seems worried about what she's done at all, even though we know on the inside she's nonstop thinking about all the problems she needs to solve. It's quite the impression. So Lisa gives her information on the big merchant event. They're going to go crash, see if they can't find Sierra's brother. So, 11.4, Taylor goes to visit Lisa to get ready to go to the Crash That Merchant event. And we walk into Lisa's conspiracy board room, which is always nice. The room was small,
conspiracy room,
and it was hot, with running computers that were crammed into it. 6 people were seated at different points in the room, each with their own computer. 2 more computers sat unoccupied. The walls were scattered with photos, maps, printouts, and post-its. Black tape joined these elements together in a bizarre configuration that looked like part tree and part maze. All of our enemies were up on the wall. The merchants, the Fenris Chosen, the Pure, the Protectorate, New Wave, and the Wards. There were pages relating to something Lisa was calling Case 53. Dragon was up there, as was Scion. The Slaughterhouse 9 were on a bulletin board, but Hatchet's face's picture was crossed out in red marker. Which is, very Lisa of her.
Foreshadowing.
Oh yeah, there might have been some important stuff mentioned in there. The world will never know.
Just a couple things.
Just a little bit of things.
Don't worry, I wouldn't have picked up on it if it weren't for us having to re-record this. I wouldn't have known, but that's all right.
I mean, for one, the big thing that is talked about later in the arc is Hatchetface is a member of the Slaughterhouse 9 that Cherish dealt with and replaced. So it's hinting that the configuration of the slaughterhouse DNA is changing for later on in the arc. Another thing that is slightly set up here that we'll get the payoff for later. And of course, Lisa threatens to kick Brian's ass if he doesn't start talking to Taylor again, which is such a best friend move. The best friend engineer.
Solid wingman move, too.
Yeah. Do you think that Lisa, like, legitimately knows more about the situation because of her powers, or because she's smarter at reading people than Taylor? Just even about the powers? Or is she just trying to be a good wingman to Taylor?
I think Lisa just likes meddling. I think she likes meddling.
Okay.
That's it.
And Taylor meets Lisa's minions, some of which are very creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ghosts.
And then Taylor gets Lisa talking about cape stuff, which seems to be a pattern that all of Taylor's friends are like fairly obsessed with cape stuff. Because Lisa has just like this whole theory about powers and stuff. So I think your power is strongest when you're closest to the situation where you had your trigger event, which is interesting. Honestly, I'm highly suspicious that it's true for any cape out there. Whenever you're in the same kind of mindset or some sort of physical situation you were in when you got your powers get stronger. The bad news is that you probably can't leverage that to your advantage. Your powers would operate off of hopelessness and frustration because that's what drove you to get your powers in the first place. Once more, bird as a metaphor for trauma. Trauma becomes stronger when you are like participating in events that constantly remind you of your trauma.
But hey, at least when you're re-traumatized, you'll be stronger than ever.
I.e., this is why there's so many supervillains.
Because people who have that much trauma are totally healthy.
And so they arrive at the merchant's meeting spot at the end of this chapter, and they talk a little bit about like the bands that the merchants use to signify what's happening. Like black is death, red is bloodshed, and there were a couple others that I don't quite remember.
Yellow is like test of courage or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was
apparently this merchant's meeting, blood's gonna be shed because they get red bands when they walk in. And 11.5 starts, my notes say, the merchant shopping center. Things are bad here. That's what I wrote in my notes for this arc. Lisa buys the group drugs to help them blend in. Is the second thing I have written down, which is, like she makes them take them, but she switched them out with placebos and didn't tell them. So they all have to like really trust fall here into maybe taking some suspicious drugs.
Taylor's like, I guess I'm going to take ecstasy while we're on a mission. Cool.
And they walk by a teen being forced into exhibitionism by the crowd. And Taylor insists that they help her even if they have to break cover. Which is, I know we've had a couple chapters in this arc where we've been like, Taylor's a really good supervillain. And here we're seeing why Taylor could also be a really good hero.
It's like, no, I don't give a shit for helping.
Like, yeah, because everyone else is like, no, that would be risky. And Taylor's like, I will do it whether you help me or not, so help me. And it shows her heroic side, too, which is nice. So she helps the girl, and the girl hugs her and says, thank you. And this is what Taylor does in response. I hugged her back reflexively, a little shaken. Why did it take this long for someone to say that simple thing to me? I'd wanted to be a hero once upon a time.
And then the girl fucks it up.
She recognized, I don't know if it's fucks it up where she recognizes Taylor for being Taylor.
She fucked it up. No, No.
Yes, she is
So she
totally
was
the
like-
one at fault for revealing the fact that she knew Taylor, went to her school.
No, I'm saying she wrecked Taylor's I wanted to be a hero by being like, oh,
You're
Taylor girl.
Yeah.
I wanted to help you. And Taylor being like, well, why the fuck didn't you? And Taylor, once again, her hope and humanity just goes,
Yeah. And it really shows, like, whatever progress Taylor thinks she's made with her confidence, she
Nope.
hasn't. She has
It's
not
fake.
actually made progress. She's been a supervillain and has avoided progress.
but hey, she's got those running muscles and she's dramatic AF. And who needs to be healthy when you're dramatic and you can hide your feelings in your muscles? It's fine.
Cough, cough.
As the athletic friend that's sad and has big muscles.
We know what we're talking about here. We can relate on a weirdly emotional level to Taylor.
I love you. You've never done anything wrong in your whole life.
So they find Bryce. And I think the only reason that Taylor doesn't escalate the situation with Charlotte to like an extreme degree is because they get interrupted because they found Bryce.
Yeah. I think Taylor was like that close. I'm holding my fingers very close together for the audience to having a nuclear meltdown over this. But then was like, no, I'm a supervillain running a supervillain errand. Once again, as long as you're dramatic, there's no reason to confront your trauma.
Yeah, and we found out that Bryce joined the merchants on purpose. He wasn't kidnapped. He says, got sick, then when I get better, my sister drags me to this church. Same fucking thing. Lame people, lame place, and I know I'll just be doing more fucking chores to earn my keep. Fuck that. Some people came to trash the church, and I figured, here, hey, there's a way out. Have some fun.
That is when you stab a toddler because he's a toddler. And you stab that toddler.
I think he's a
Don't
toddler.
actually stab the toddler.
He's
You
like
kidnapped a toddler.
he's like a middle schooler, I think, or a high schooler. Younger than
Yeah,
Taylor,
but he's
so middle
pretty
schooler.
young anyways.
Practically a toddler.
Yeah.
Has the mindset of a toddler.
Yeah. Might as well have fun. No. No. Not at the expense of others, dipshit.
Although he's
Having
also
some fun.
also a middle schooler, and middle schoolers, especially middle school guys, have like zero empathy for anyone, so it like
Yeah.
kind of puts that into perspective.
But no. Having some. I'm down to commit arson. As long as it is property, people. Property, not people. Like, he's like having
Maybe
some fun and
Don't
causing
admit to
real
be
actual
willing
harm.
to like commit a crime on audio.
I'm down to commit arson.
I'm not
Down.
for legal purposes. I'm not, and this is a bit.
Sure. For legal reasons, this is a joke. No, you have some fun in ways that damage property and not people. And what he's doing is damaging people.
Yeah, but then that gets interrupted. Them trying to convince Bryce to come with them gets interrupted by Skidmark. We knew it was coming. Announcing the main event and where people have to fight to get these vials, which have superpowers in a can. And Lisa realizes that he's trying to get people to have trigger events, and that's how the merchants very recently have had like an uptick in how many parahumans they have in their group.
I also find it kind of interesting that we, as critical thinkers and people who have all of the information, know that like different power sets come from like different kinds of trauma. So they're putting people through the very same type of trauma every single time, which is why I think that they're getting more parahumans but not getting any more powerful. Because they are just gaining the same kind of power set.
And I think
different sparkle, but same type.
Yeah, and I think that could also be the reason why they hold different type of events to get people with different powers. Why they have tests of courage versus death versus bloodshed, because those events give people different kinds of trigger events.
Yeah.
But they're also terrible at naming, so it just doesn't help. Like, they're bad.
It doesn't.
Anyway, in my notes I wrote, you can buy superpowers. Interesting. Is what I have in my notes.
I didn't know this before.
Yeah. I don't know. 11.6. This is the first time that our main characters find out about it, though.
It's true.
Which means they can actually do something.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So 11.6, the mall breaks out into total chaos as the fight begins for the vial of superpowers. So Bryce escapes Jaws' holds and makes a break into the crowd with his girlfriend. And a boy fighting in the ring has a trigger event, which just like creates vaporizing beams every so often. And while he has that trigger event, and everyone is looking at them, the people with have powers have a different reaction to seeing it than everyone else. They all like kind of freak out. And I'll read Taylor's internal monologue while this is happening. But what had happened to Skidmark's group, Tattletale and I could vaguely remember something about thought about trying to put it into words as if describing it could help call it to mind in a way that I could describe it, but they disappeared as I reached for them. I was reminded of Imp's power. Before I could get a handle on it, I'd forgotten entirely, and I was struggling to even remember what I was trying to do, my thoughts muddling the idea with my attempts to get my bearings. And then Taylor turns over to look at Lisa, who has, like, activated her power on this trigger event to try to figure things out. It's kind of freaked her out, too. They're like viruses, she said, her voice thin as if she were talking to herself, and babies and gods, all at the same time. Any thoughts?
I'm just like, all that's in my head is a tiny fetus-shaped virus that is a god. Because that's what my brain went to, was a
literal interpretation.
Yeah. Because, yeah.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
That it's a tiny fetus-shaped virus that's a god?
Yeah, can neither confirm nor deny.
I'm sure I got it right. First try with that literal interpretation. Thank you, Ashley.
Neither confirm nor deny. Just got a smirk.
And then the little section after this, after Lisa has her little meltdown, also made it onto my Taylor's most metal moments, because Taylor slapped her friend in the face to get her to snap out of it.
Yep. And Taylor watched after the trigger event. Skidmark like invites the kid up to the stage and like, pick your name and also pick your friend, because one of your friends gets the vial, since you already have a power. And Taylor is like, maybe he's actually smarter than I think his friend giving him credit for it, because he had to pick which one of his friends out of the two, and that's like kind of cult leader-esque behavior, like dividing and isolating. So it's like, if it was intentional, if Skidmark was dividing his allies from their former groups and cliques so they couldn't gang up against him, I'd have to adjust my estimation of him. Not that I'd like him anymore or even respect him, but I give him credit for intelligence. And then as they're watching all this go down, kind of from the sidelines, not really knowing what to do, the mall gets attacked by Fault Line's crew.
Which I love. I love them.
Isn't it great when more than one villain team is going to do things at the same place?
Yeah, I unabashedly love Fault Line's crew. I love Neuter. I love all of them.
And
they're amazing.
And Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Pretty great. And Labyrinth, as they're running away, covers the exits, so the crew is trapped in a general mayhem. And begins to make a literal maze out of the mall in 11.7. where Taylor is running through the maze, finds Trainwreck in the maze, who is one of Coyle's men, but is undercover as a merchant. She convinces him to help her. Quite the risk. And Lisa manages to get a hold of some evidence, like some sheets of paper with like receipts from the vials, of an organization called Cauldron.
Yes, exactly the face I was making.
And Taylor's response to finding this out was, people can buy powers. How many people are doing this? I felt a touch offended at the idea. I'd earned my powers through my hardships. Most of us had.
I like that, actually. Like, yep, I feel that. What do you mean you just can buy that? No. What do you mean you're funny and don't have trauma? That's not how that's supposed to work.
But in this case, it's also like, Taylor, you're a supervillain right now. I don't think you get to complain about how people get or use powers.
Yeah. You don't really have the high ground in that
The
area.
wards can complain about that. You can't.
Yeah. Every time I think about her joining the wards.
It gives
Damn close.
Happy feeling. If only Sophia's gone now. There's still a chance.
No, there's not.
Yeah, no. Her hope has died. She hates superheroes now. Her hope has died in that organization. We can't get into a 30-minute conversation on why she should join the wards, though, again. We've done that, probably every episode. We've had a conversation about why Taylor should join the wards. We can't do that.
To make her go to therapy. Go to therapy!
Can't do that right now. So Neuter shows up and like asks for the stuff because that's what they're here for. And Lisa's like, why don't you answer some questions first? Sure, but like, can we get some information here, basically? And so Neuter gives a breakdown of everything. Although first Lisa uses her powers to go through what some of the stuff on the paperwork means. So enough that there's a whole enterprise here with a private army. There's this bit that very politely notes that breaking the rules will get you hunted down and executed by subjects, capital S. Clients are warned that these guys are entirely loyal to Cauldron, will not accept bribes, and these subjects are apparently something different from deviations. Cauldron calls us subjects. The PRT calls us Case 53s, a voice said from above us. Regular people call us monsters.
Aww.
And that is Neuter. And he elaborates, Gregor, Shamrock, and I were test subjects. Oh, I forgot to mention, Shamrock's part of the Fault Line crew now, is that girl we vaguely heard about a couple arcs ago that doesn't have a physical mutation, though is a Case 53 still. So Gregor, Shamrock, and I were test subjects, guinea pigs to test the new formulas so buyers don't get fucked. According to Shamrock, 3 in 5 of us don't even survive. 1 in 5 subjects are retained and brainwashed so they can protect the business and enforce the contracts. Shamrock was going to be one of them, but she escaped. The rest of us have our memories removed and were released as part of the Nemesis program.
They're creating bad guys.
So, yeah, we get a payoff for Fault Line's crew investigation of Case 53 in this chapter, too. Because we see them actively doing it.
I also like the bit where Lisa's like, oh yeah, also I want to trade information. Here's my number. And Neuter's like, well, I'll be using it one way or another. Wink wonk.
Okay, Neuter.
Okay.
Put yourself out there. We believe in you.
That Lisa knows everything about you and is probably not interested. So
You can try.
you can really try. But
Prepare to be blackmailed, I guess. I feel like that's how every relationship with Lisa has gone so far.
Yep.
Get in a relationship with her, get blackmailed or feel threatened that she could potentially blackmail you at any time.
That nice power imbalance.
Yeah, and so then Charlotte's still here in the background of all this chaos.
And Neuter goes, Skitter. And then Ezra like, eh. Oh, and then this was the last Taylor moment in my list that I thought was truly metal. I looked at Charlotte, and she shrank back, as if I could hurt her by looking at her, which was dumb. It was fairly obvious to anyone who considered my power that I didn't need to look at people to hurt them.
This is also one of the quotes that I wrote down. And the follow-up is, not that it hurt her anyways. She did nothing to deserve any such thing beyond being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nice save, Taylor.
Yeah, sure.
We believe you, 100%. We were not there 2 chapters ago.
And you were like, should I stab this guy or not stab this guy?
Or when you had that argument with Charlotte and were like, oh no.
This close. Once again, I'm holding up my hands.
This close, yeah.
Very, very close together.
The fingers are touching. They're just like a nail apart.
Kind of like tapping off of each other.
Okay, so they rush out of there as the fight continues. And in 11.8, Taylor takes the group back to Coyle's doctor and offers Charlotte a job. So in the end of this, the way this breaks down is Taylor recruits Sierra and Charlotte, and Lisa gets stuck with Bryce. Lisa has all the crappy minions, and Taylor gets that high-quality minion.
Yeah. The will be loyal 100. And then
Lisa gets Bryce and the creepy soldier guy.
the flight risk and the people that she has to split up because she doesn't want them to learn bad behaviors from each other.
Hey, well, Lisa can handle a bad minion, though. Lisa can handle a bad minion, though. I don't know if Taylor would be able to handle a bad minion without, like, murdering someone.
There'd be no bad minion anymore. Wouldn't be a problem.
So, Sierra basically explained, like, Taylor explains to Sierra what happened with Bryce. She exercises some real human empathy here. His parents were in the hospital, his home and school was gone. He was a scared, confused kid that was offered a community and the power to change things. It's like what cults do. They prey on people who are at their most vulnerable, people who are lost with no attachment, who are hungry and weak. It's easy to understand how readily they can get to someone.
Because that boy did not hesitate to turn his back on his sister.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really...
I don't want to do chores.
To be fair, it wasn't probably chores.
It was probably like a full-ass day of chores.
It was probably rebuilding the destruction that had happened from the Leviathan attack.
Yeah. That's like, you don't have food or water, and everything is broken.
Yeah, he's just been deeply traumatized by all families in the hospital. Only has a sister right now.
Yeah.
Like, the whole city just got destroyed. There are no good things. There isn't even school.
And like, so I understand this stupid middle school mindset. But also, it's an all hands on deck moment, and you cannot go join a gang just because you don't want to help fix your life. You middle school boy. That's my new favorite insult. I'm gonna take that. Middle school boy.
You're a middle school boy. Look at
Oh my god.
The
you
worst
are being
insult.
such a middle school boy. Could you say that to me?
Yeah, and so Lisa does end up chewing out Brian, and Brian apologizes to Taylor and asks to be friends again, and she accepts. It's just a nice moment.
That's how being friends works.
Do you want to know how the arc ends? How this chapter ends?
That's right.
All in all, if I didn't think about it too hard about it, I could feel cautiously optimistic for the first time in a long while. For the first time in weeks, months, I could feel like everything might just work out.
Too, because mass murderers are coming to
And
town.
the top comment underneath this chapter was, that sounds like an invitation for something monumentally bad to happen.
And Wild Bow in his chair going,
Yeah, and it didn't even take that long because the interludes for this arc, of which there are so many. It's the majority of my notes. But the first one, 11.A, is the Siberian and Rachel, because these chapters is each of the Slaughterhouse 9 told from one other person that sees them. This one's from Rachel's perspective. I think this is our first interlude from Rachel's perspective. It's nice to get to read on how she thinks and how kind of lonely her life is, which is depressing. But it starts with Rachel playing with Bentley and the other dogs, and then from down the street, she hears a howl.
Bum, bum, bum.
And Rachel talks about how she's treating her underlings really shittily because she wants to scare them away so she can just be alone with her dogs, and that she hates humans.
It's going to be great for her mental health. Long term, totally fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Totally fantastic. And, like, she feels happy in this moment, and I want to read the paragraph because it's kind of sad. Did other people experience anything close to this? Did Taylor, Brian, Lisa, or Alec? She felt like she was one with Bentley as she caught quick breaths between his jarring footfalls. Water splashed onto her skin and his. Her legs pressed against his body, and he could feel the expansion and contraction as he huffed out breaths. She trusted him, and he trusted her absolutely in return. It varied from one dog to the next, but the same was true with the others that were following in Bentley's wake. They believed in her, and if they didn't love her yet, she knew it would come in time with her patience and continued care of them. What did Lisa have compared to that rush, this security? What did the others have? Why, Bish wondered, are they happier than me?
I don't think they are. I just think they're better at pretending.
It's true. It's probably fair. Though Rachel's a fairly good judge of emotion in others.
That's true.
So this could be entirely accurate. She certainly lives a lonelier existence than they do. They're all friends with one another. Even Taylor, who was like an outsider a month ago, is closer friends with this group than Rachel is.
Yeah.
Like, Rachel doesn't really understand human connection, so... Yeah, and it follows up with, Bitch knew that she wasn't a lone wolf by choice the same way that Alec was. There was a void there, some part of her that craved that human connection because she was a human and that's what humans needed. The way things had played out, things she had no control over, she'd never had a chance to figure out how to deal with people, how to invite them in to fill that void. Friendships and family, conversations and jokes, being close to others and knowing when to speak up and when to stay quiet, they were treacherous things, littered with complicated nuances, bad associations, and worse memories. Even if she somehow got something right, she always managed to fuck it up sooner than later. Easier to leave it alone, easier to stay back and not try. And if they got in her face, if they challenged her and didn't let her keep them at arm's length, it was easier to fall back on what worked and what she knew than it was to try and guess how to respond. Violence, threats, it earned her respect, if nothing else. Then Taylor had made overtures at friendship. Taylor had invited herself into that place, that void, and had stayed when Bitch fucked up. The scrawny kid had stood her ground instead of running when Bitch called her out on something. And maybe just a little in some way, Bitch had gotten a glimpse at what she had been missing on, only to find out it was a ploy, an act, so that Taylor could get the group's confidence. And the others had forgiven her so easily. She could see them fawning over the little traitor, and there was nothing she could do about it. They liked Taylor more. They would keep Taylor on the team and make Bitch leave if it came down to it. She knew it in her gut. Cue the sad silence for Rachel.
Not her fault. Her brain doesn't click like that. Like,
Yeah.
the communications malfunction feels tragic.
Yeah. And it is in some way much worse that she knows that she's missing out on stuff and she wants it. She just doesn't know how to get it.
Yeah. She has that craving for human connection, but
Powers fucked her over, so she can't have it.
yeah.
And then this poor guy walks down the street, his family, and this is a bad time to go outside, guy.
Come on, man.
We really see, in this instance, how Rachel's powers screw with her perception of things because she interprets every cue the guy gives off wrong. Like, she interprets signs of him backing down as signs of conflict and aggression, and him trying to communicate, like, empathy and stuff as him, like, encroaching on her space.
It's just... And I feel like she's the kind of person that later she's going to be thinking about this and be like, fuck. Like, right now, in the moment, she feels threatened in a twisted way. But that's what she feels.
And she is the type of person that acts on how she feels on. So it almost ended really, really poorly. But Brandish and Glory Girl arrive at the scene to try to stop Rachel from probably murdering this man. But the Siberian shows up, and they realize they're out of their depth, and they flee. And the Siberian has a conversation with Rachel, and seems to naturally understand, like, dog body language, and uses it to make Rachel feel more comfortable, whether Rachel really likes it or not. So Siberian has
one of those where Rachel's like, I'm supposed to hate you, but is having a hard time doing that.
Yeah. Siberian picks Rachel as her recruit for the Slaughterhouse 9.
Which is so exciting.
Rachel goes back to her base and finds all the humans dead, dogs are fine, and a special gift. A wolf pup.
Bomb as fuck gift. I don't care if it came from a serial killer. A little wolf puppy is a bomb gift.
Yeah, and Rachel hears a phrase that the Siberian said in their conversation echoing in her head. Are you a wolf or are you a dog? And that's where that arc ends. 11 point B. Theo and Jack Slash. That should be the start. For preface, all of these arcs going to start with us. With just a pitched screaming. Because that's the type of things this arc is. So the chapter opens with Theo staring at a TV set. It seems completely normal at first, except the dread sort of sets in when it is described that the TV is actually off, and the person playing with Aster in the background is revealed to be Jack Slash. Here's a description, a little bit of a description of Jack Slash. The man's beard had been trimmed, but scruff was growing around in the edges, obscuring the intricate pattern that had been trimmed into the inside border of the facial hair. A knife danced around his fingers constantly, making Theo flinch every time the blade pointed toward him and Aster. Jack Slash. Caden had reclaimed her old apartment after the catastrophe and found many of her possessions still there. The man never left the front door out of his sight as he walked around the living room and was soon behind Theo. With the window open, Theo could hope the man was upwind of a romantic diaper. How long before the squealing of the baby, an offensive smell, or something set the psychopath off? And Theo wonders if him being polite is the only reason Jack Slash has been letting him live that long. This is a very helpless situation because Theo is a normal person with no superpowers and is facing one of the world's most dangerous supervillains. The leader of the Slaughterhouse 9. Yeah.
I would have been straight up dead.
I think pretty much everyone would have been dead except Theo.
Because Theo's like, well, shit. Okay, I guess I'm gonna sit here and be chill and try not to die. I'd have been like, okay, I'm not gonna make it out of this. I'm at least gonna make my exit from the world loud.
And Jack Slash makes conversation with Theo. Mostly you can tell to like entertain himself as he's waiting for Caden or Purity to get home. Do you love her, the mother of that baby? Yes, sir, but I don't like her, he thinks. Good, good. Does she love you? No, sir, but she likes me. Oh? Jack drew out the sound, and it was vaguely mocking. Do tell. I take care of Aster for her. I do my chores. I don't talk back. I don't make life harder for her, Theo began. He swallowed. But my dad treated her badly, and I think she sees him when she looks at me, and she'll never let herself love me because of that. She has to look past the doughy face to see Dad in me, past the baby fat I never seem to lose, but I have his genes. I look like him, beneath it all. It's just a bad situation to be in.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, let me explain to a murderer my broken family dynamic in order to make it out of this situation.
I don't even know if Theo's thinking about it like I'm gonna make it out of the situation. He thinks he's dead. He just, like, doesn't know when.
Maybe prolong it a little bit. Like I said, that's not where my brain would have gone. My brain would have been like, how do I make sure the most people know about this?
So Jack talks to Theo about Kaiser and his impression of him from when he came to Brockton Bay years ago, when the Slaughterhouse 9 was still a young organization. And Theo is talking about his impression of Kaiser, and Jack responds with, "Is that so? I'd like to think I'm much the same, a people reader, but my interest is in the design of people, what makes them tick, what holds them together. All too often it's one little thing. In architecture they call it a keystone, the one point that keeps the entire arc from collapsing, the weak point, and I'm very, very good at finding those weak points. Can you guess what I'm talking about here? Why I am in this apartment?" Theo guesses he's here because of Aster, and Jack confirms that, because Aster is the linchpin to Purity's sanity. So, Jack talks about how each member of the Slaughterhouse 9, he is here to pick their candidate. Jack monologues here. It just has a villain monologue. Explains his evil plan, which is not something you normally see from the villains in this book, but it fits here because you can totally read that Jack Slash is like a total narcissist.
Oh yeah,
and is like putting on a show. Basically.
Yeah, he gives the rest of the Slaughterhouse 9 give the animalistic kind of psycho stereotype for the whole, like, you know, serial killer thing. Jack Slash gives very much Bundy vibes. Smart, slick, greasy.
Ugh. Yeah. And so Jack had picked Odie Lee, but found him to be a blank slate of a person due to his power, leaving him a little, which left a little bit of himself behind each time he teleported. And Jack feels he's gonna kill Aster and Theo the moment Caden walks into the apartment to like get her dramatic reaction and get a good fight from it. So Theo pretty much knew this the whole time, but has like a bit of a breakdown, finding out that it's true and that he is going to die. And Jack continues on because he's the worst.
Because he's the worst.
He's the worst. Sometimes, Jack started, pausing as if he was constructing the thought as he spoke it. I like to imagine the impact I've made on the world. What possible realities am I pruning? What events am I setting into motion each time I take a life? If the flap of a butterfly's wing can alter the course of a hurricane, what am I doing when I take a human life? The life of a person who interacts with dozens of people every day, who would have a career, romance, children. Can you tell me who you are, Kaiser's boy? What am I doing to reality when I open you up from cock to chin and let your entrails spill on the floor? Oof. And unlike most people, Theo finds an answer in that question. He answers he wanted to be a superhero. He's second generation. He's pretty much guaranteed powers, and he wanted to do something good with them. I'm probably going to get powers because I'm Kaiser's son, but I don't want to be a member of Purity's group. I don't want to cleanse the world or try to fix things by killing or through hate, sir. Jack laughs at this and asks him some more questions. What would you do to people like me then? Say you got your power. Would you right some wrongs, lecture school children on what's right, and see bad guys like me carted off to the birdcage? Somehow, knowing the inevitability of his own death gave him a measure of courage he had never had before. Even so, it took all the willpower he had. Theo met Jack's eyes for the first time. The man's eyes were a very pale blue, and there were lines at the corner. Theo swallowed the lump in his throat. People like you, I'd kill, sir. And in this moment, Jack changes his mind about killing Theo because he found his answer interesting. And instead gives him this ultimatum. 2 years then. 2 years to train your power. To get your powers, to train. Do whatever it takes to become the motherfucking badass you described. That should be long enough without risking that one of us gets off by bad luck or picking the wrong fight. At that 2-year mark, you hunt me down, you kill, disable, or sneak past my 9, whoever they are 2 years from now. You look me in the eyes and then you try to kill me. If you fail, if you cannot find me, if you chicken out, it's a good consequence. If you fail in this, I'll kill 999 people in your name. I'll even break my usual rules to get the body count that high. So it's something special, beyond my usual habits. Maybe a bomb, maybe poison. I'll come up with something. I can target the people you love, those who are closest to, people you've affected. Aster can be the 999th, and you'll be the 1000th. Perfect. Canceling the impact you've made in the world. It's poetic.
No, it's not.
You're an asshole, Jack. Get out of here. Get out of here. You're being booed.
You got clapped. No, you got awkward silenced off of the open mic stage. It's time for you to get the fuck out now.
Yeah. And Jack does go to leave. Theo opens the door for him. And Kaden is standing outside it and is about to start talking to Theo about why he didn't come help her with her groceries when she sees Jack. Theo tells her to let him go, and Jack leaves with this. Be grateful. The boy is the only reason you and your daughter are alive right now. He'll explain. Train him. Make him strong. Make him vicious. Let him take whatever paths he needs to take. You and your daughter owe him that. And Theo is left with the overwhelming pressure of having 2 years to get a power, train it up, and try to kill one of the world's most infamous mass murderers and villains.
Yay! We're rooting for you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Theo. Your world sucks. 11.C. Ellie and Burnscar. So this chapter starts sort of ambiguously. It doesn't reveal to us who the narrator is. Like it could be Spitfire because there's fire going on, but it's slowly revealed to be Labyrinth or Ellie. And a lot of stuff is revealed about Ellie. On a good day, Ellie can't use her powers that well. On her bad days, she has much more access, but not a lot of thought. And she really doesn't, it says a lot about her that her good days are the days she can't use power and is like a normal person. And her bad days are the one where she's super powerful and doesn't have, barely have a thought in the world.
That's how she thinks of.
Yeah, and we can think back to all of the times that we've seen Labyrinth in the story, and those have probably all been bad days. Because we've seen her in the use of her power in the middle of a fight, doing things. Especially at the mall, where she transformed the whole mall into a giant maze world.
Into a giant maze world.
In this chapter, Burnscar is attacking Faultline's crew, and Ellie is trying desperately to save her by creating this fountain thing to get water to put out the fire. But that doesn't end up stopping Burnscar. What actually stops Burnscar is that she knows Ellie. And Ellie tries to play along in this conversation and keep her calm, even though it's clear that while Burnscar considers Ellie a friend, Ellie does not consider Burnscar a friend.
No, not at all.
And they talk about, because Brinskar also has a power that severely affects her mental state. And Labyrinth responds to her being like, I can't stop, you know that. And she was like, you can, you just don't try hard enough. I don't know. And Labyrinth would be the one to know, because she's like in that place.
She's like, no, I know. I'm fully aware of how it works.
I have a super cool power too, and you don't see me joining the Slaughterhouse 9.
So stop, please.
So, the description of Burnscar's power. The doctors say that using my power, it adjusts the chemical balances and connections in my brain. Empathy, impulse control, my emotions, they disappear as I use my power. And I can't help using my power if there's fire nearby. It snowballs because I use my power more when I don't have that self-control, when I don't care about the people I'm near, and when I'm in that headspace, I don't want to leave it. Yeah. And you retreat into that state to avoid facing the guilt over the things you've done. Use it to hide from your own fears. If I blame you for anything, it's for that. And, yeah, Ellie, thinking some truths here. Some very harsh truths.
And she's not going to say to this person.
No.
It's a good day. She can't really protect herself right now.
Yeah. Burnskar figures out that she only reminds Ellie of this bad place they were both talking about, that they were both held and escaped from, and leaves. And Ellie thinks about the whole situation. It would be weeks before she made up for the ground she had just lost in terms of her mental health, in pushing past the bad memories and the bad place. She reassured herself, thought that she would get better in time. She'd gotten there once. She would get there and then, if the others were okay. As for Burnskar, there'd be no helping that girl.
I'm so proud of her being like, shit, instead of like, shit, well, she was like, damn, my mental health, I made so much progress, and now I'm like weeks back. God damn it.
And every time we see Fault Line's crew, we're just like, these people are great. They do things for money, they're really good friends with each other, they, circle their wagons, protect one another. Like they don't work for Coil. Big plus.
Yeah, big plus.
One of the few groups that don't work for Coil.
Yeah, they have like a couple of like disconnects here and there, but like they're small. They're like these. I get the feeling Fault Line's crew really care about each other too.
Yeah, I feel like they're what the Undersiders kind of want to be.
Yeah, I feel like the Undersiders are also working to get to that point. Like they're trying. They're still building that.
Because Fault Line's crew doesn't really hold territory. They have like a nightclub, I think, and that's it.
That's true.
But that's really Coil's objective for the Undersiders, and not the Undersiders' own objective.
Mm-hmm.
Although technically the Undersiders' only objective is to work for Coil, because that's how they were founded.
That's how they were founded. But I think that Taylor, Lisa, and Gru, at the very least, are kind of splitting off from that a little bit. And
I don't think Rachel's ever been in it for working for Coil. I don't think any of them are actually in it as working for Coil. They all see it as a means to an end.
Mm-hmm. Gru's still there, though.
Yeah, Gru wants to help his sister. Lisa has something that we haven't, that Coil hasn't talked about. Alex wants to get out of his father's shadow and not have to run away from him should he come for him. And Rachel wants to have her dogs. Taylor wants Dinah, which is the only one of these objectives that directly conflicts with Coil.
Yep.
Should be fun. Anyway, 11.D. Colin and Mannequin.
Oh my god.
This is the straight out from a horror movie chapter.
Oh my god, yes.
There are sounds in the air vents. Colin plays Five Nights at Freddy's. This is what we're experiencing right now.
Colin is in Five Nights at Freddy's.
So Colin is talking to Dragon, working on some stuff, and Colin hears something and asks Dragon for help telling what it is. Something's in the vents. And then we got a description of Mannequin. Another great example of wild bow body horror. In Mannequin. So Mannequin, original name Alan Graham or Grammy, whatever. Tinker originally went by the name Sphere. Speciality is in biomes, terraforming, and ecosystems, or it was. It became newsworthy when he took on a project to build self-sustaining biospheres on the moon. He had an idea on solving world hunger and building aquatic cities. Their cities plagued by overcrowding, and he was putting it all into effect until his wife and children were killed in the attack. Years of work ruined. Everything fell apart. He went mad. He cut himself off from the rest of the world, literally sealed himself away. Like other serial killers, Mannequin favored certain types of people as victims. His prey of choice includes rogues, those individuals seeking to make a profit from their abilities, especially those looking to better the world, and tinkers. Colin thinks Mannequin's here to kill him at this point and tells him to kill him, that he's already lost everything, and this makes Dragon sad in the background. Dragon sends a single robotic tear in the background. But Mannequin isn't here to kill him. He's here to recruit him and, uses this message, translates this message by taking keys off of a keyboard because he can't talk and spelling it out in, chat speech with the keys on his keyboard. And, being recruited by the Slaughterhouse 9 freaks Colin out a little bit. Just a little bit.
Because he's like, wait, what the fuck? I'm ambitious. I may have fucked up.
I may have done some real shitty things to get where I am, but I'm not that shitty. There's a line somewhere, and it's that.
I did shitty things to move up, not down. What?
No. So he starts shouting things at Mannequin to try to get him to attack. And there's this really cool scene before that, I think, with the black backing, the glass reflected an image. With the angle Mannequin had carefully found, the image reflected was half of Colin's own face overlapping with Mannequin's head, and this is how Mannequin translates to Colin that you're like me. With the you and me keys of the keyboard, too, like the U and M.
Did not make Colin very happy.
No, and he tries to, wants to kill Mannequin, and he wants to succeed, and in his head he's thinking, don't do it for me, God, I probably don't deserve the chance, do it for every soul this motherfucker would kill from here if I fail. And so he succeeds in getting him to attack after bringing up Mannequin's family, and is cut into pieces. Only surviving thanks to Dragon replacing a lot of his body with artificial parts because she needs him. And Mannequin also left a BRB message showing he didn't intend to kill him and knew he would survive. And this is the chapter that Dragon reveals her status as an AI to Colin.
And I'm just saying, I hated Colin. Colin is Arms Master. I hated him. I straight up hated him. The way he reacted in this chapter made me be like, fuck you. I hate you because we're kindred spirits in a way, aren't we, you asshole? Because this is exactly what I would have done in this situation.
Yeah, he did the thing you said you would do if confronted to jackpots. Come on, kill me, you won't.
I'll be laughing about it. I'm going to go down to win, bitch. And he failed, but he was tired. And now I have to be like, okay, fuck, I can't fully hate you. I can resent you a little bit because you're a motherfucking narcissist, but...
I think Wildbow does a good job at presenting people from their own perspective in their interludes. Like, we think from Taylor's perspective about other people. Like, we agree with Taylor's assessment of people usually when she thinks of them. But when we're in other point of view, that somewhat changes.
Yeah, I'm like, well, not
like we've never hated the wards, but we don't hate the wards when we're in the ward chapter.
No.
Like, we didn't think Kidwin was a total loser in his perspective chapter. We thought, no, you're doing good, Kidwin. Keep trying.
You got this, buddy.
And I think that shows here with Colin, in that, like, he has been built up to be, like, the one you hate in this story at this point. Like, he is Taylor's, like, at this point has been her, like, arch nemesis among the heroes.
Which makes me sad, because now, like, feels more like an excuse, Taylor. Not a reason.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Because this man was about to throw hands with a serial killer and still somehow made it out alive. So you gotta give him a little bit of credit.
To be fair, I don't think Taylor has seen this side of Colin before.
No, I don't think so either.
It's funny, like he's better. He's a better person without being in a position of power.
Yes. I don't like the name Colin though. Colin seems super chill.
He's not super chill.
Fucking fits.
Well, he's not Arms Master anymore. He's not a hero anymore.
No, he's Colin.
He's Colin.
Which just seems like such a
Colin.
I have a cousin named Colin Colin is the most chill person, which is why I think that, but
it's Colin.
Yeah.
Colin.
It's Colin. The inventor dude.
And then on to the next arc, 11.E, with Hookwolf and Shatterbird. Hey, at least this one we got to enjoy the horrible racist getting attacked by a serial killer. Like, we got to root for a member of the Slaughterhouse 9 at this point.
But then she tried to recruit a racist. So
that's not great. Nah. But at
least
least
she feeling sad, find a Nazi to punch.
Yeah.
Does wonders.
Anyway, Hookwolf being a horrible racist, setting us up to enjoy whatever torment he gets from his member of the 9 is the start of this chapter. He's like training with members of his group, and then the glass shatters around him, killing a lot of people. Like the ones with glasses die pretty much immediately. And we know, and so Shatterbird arrives, and she has this big fight with everyone there, and they lose because she's like the leader, she's like really strong.
Yeah.
She's not the underdog in this fight, that's for sure. But they do have like waves in this fight where it looks like they're winning, because one of the characters' power has like a power that like sort of nullifies Shatterbird's to an extent. Like sound waves or something, and
but as soon as that person goes down,
everyone else gets their ass kicked. Murdered, because Shatterbird is also a horrible serial killer. So she says to Hookwolf, "I'm the 9's and I have to do a bad British accent because Shatterbird's British."
Okay.
"I'm the 9's primary recruiter. I have an eye for people who can thrive among us, and I have brought more than 5 individuals on board. I thought long and hard before settling on you. I'm not about to let you turn me down. Guess the men who bought my power should ask for a refund." Seems interesting there. I'm just going to read her quotes because she drops some stuff. She's a cauldron cape.
She's a cauldron cape.
Which doesn't seem like she's a case 53. So that could be bad.
Yeah.
And she's talking to Hookwolf, basically giving him the recruitment pitch, because at first Hookwolf's like, "No, I won't. Not because I'm not that bad. I am, but because of pride."
Because you waltzed in here and you killed all of my other racists. I'm like the only racist in this room. You can't do that to me.
I need other racists.
How am I going to thrive if people don't support my backwards ass logic?
And then she says, "But know that your dream is not over unless you come with us. But know that your dream is over unless you come with us. Once nominated, you'll be tested by others, whether willing or not. I have left notes urging them to kill your soldiers, to raise any place you might call home, to bestow fates worse than death." And Hookwolf agrees to be tested at this point. Shatterbird totally plays him here.
Racist.
Yeah, I think that's the summary of 11.E. Racist.
She doesn't feel racist.
No.
Or a racist sympathizer.
She feels she's a serial killer, though. So, I don't think you can... I think so is Hookwolf. So I think on the scale, maybe Shatterbird's killed more.
Hookwolf is still worse. Killing killing versus killing minorities. Like, it doesn't matter if you just like, fictionally, of course, this is not applicable to real life. A fictional character that kills everyone, hates everyone, murders everyone. Okay.
At least they kill everyone equally.
A fictional character that kills specific groups of people. Even if you kill less people, you are worse. You are worse. There's how my brain works.
Interesting takeaway from this, because I think actually Shatterbird might have the highest body count out of the slaughterhouse time because of her distance attacks. Because she just
walks in
and shatters all the glass in the city, and anyone with like glasses near a window, near like clocks, near anything that could be breakable.
I think it still have glasses.
Like microplastic.
Why is that a thing?
Microplastics and sand too.
No. Fuck no. So you can't live near a beach. You can't live with glasses. You can't have real glass windows.
You just need to live in a bunker in the middle of nowhere if you wanted to live peacefully in the Wormverse. And even that's not true because like